so this is day one, kind of making Home Away from Home, except not really because I've already started it. It's almost finished. The chords in the song are all pretty basic. They're just like 7th chords, and I've got a capo on the 5th fret here. And then there's an E minor thrown in there in the chorus. But me and T were sort of messing around. Is what he wrote, but the chorus, all the lyrics are pretty much mine, except for the last part. We kind of joint wrote the chorus, and really weirdly enough, actually, so this song is called Home Away from Home, and it's something that me and T came up with this year. But if we scroll down on my Instagram page and you click on this post right here, I captioned this Home Away from Home. This was 63 weeks ago, before I even realised, obviously, that I was going to write the song. To me, that's really, really weird, because it wasn't until me and T had wrote the song, I was just going back through old photos, and I seen this picture with this caption, and I was like, oh my god, this is literally what the song's called. So the song is, the lyrics are basically about camp, and how camp feels like a home away from your actual country. A lot of people say that home isn't about a place, it's about the people who make it, but for me, Groton Wood is the people and the place. And I don't know, like, I just really wanted to encapsulate the dreaminess and the joy that camp brings, and I think that's kind of where these chords came from. So I've recorded all of what I needed to into Logic, and I've already recorded the lyrics and, like, literally everything. The project has just been sent over to T, and T just needs to do his little bit of magic, and then it'll be all sorted. I guess a little bit of behind the scenes here. So it starts off just with the drums. And then the guitars come in. I've got one guitar panned on the left ear and one guitar panned on the right ear, just to give it a little bit more thickness. And then this is where T sings. That was just me singing so he knows where to come in. And then this is where T is singing. This is T's part. And then it gets to the chorus. I've got a few layers of vocals here on the chorus, but I know that T is also going to be singing with me. So I'm just going to leave these layers here in case I think something sounds better in one layer than another. But with T also singing, I'll sort of figure out the layers as the song goes about. And then in these vocals here, I've got like the main vocal, and then I've got one vocal panned in the left ear and one vocal panned in the right ear, but again, I'm not really 100% sure what I'm going to do with that, especially if T's singing with me. And then in the second verse here, it's not a complicated song. We literally have a little bit of an intro. I think that lasts like 8 bars, if that. And then we've got the verse, the chorus, the exact same verse, and then sort of like a switch up that I came up with. But in the second verse here, I wanted to add just a little bit of something, not too much, but just a little bit. So I actually got my electric guitar, and I just recorded a clean sort of sound on the guitar. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's not a lot, it's really just a little bit. Find me there, find me there, find me. I'm feeling so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's not even a week, but I feel like I know you so long. I feel so weak, but and then this part of the song, okay, so I was playing this song to T, and I don't know if I still have the original voice recording. I was singing na 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 na. I don't really know where it came from. I was just playing those chords and that rhythm came to my head. I said to T, I was like, I need to come up with lyrics for this part. And I said to him, I know that the word week wants to be in the song. And he asked me, what kind of week do you mean? Do you mean week as in the length, like, a week? Or do you mean week as in how strong you feel? And I was like, I don't really know, but I'll come up with something. So this one day we sat down, we had the whole song literally created in the span of 2 days, pretty much. I had been into the chapel a couple times before speaking to T if he would do the song with me, just coming up with the chords. And anyways, as most creative inspiration strikes, I was kind of going around everywhere and I could not think of any lyrics that would fit this. I was like, no, week, Buddha. No, week. And I was like, week needs to be in here. No other word works here. And the word, like, I knew that it needs to be there. I could not think of anything. But, of course, as you do, I was on the toilet. Maybe it's too much information. And I was like, I'm feeling so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's only been a week, but I feel like I know you so long. And I kind of incorporated the word week twice in there. Both that T asked me what week did I mean. I guess both. The part of this song is like, I'm feeling so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's like at camp, when you're weak, everybody else on your team kind of helps take over you in a sort of sense. I don't know if that really makes sense, but if you're not giving your 100% that day because you've only got 70% to give, everybody else in your team helps you make up that 100, and then it's only been a week, but I feel like I've known you so long. This is kind of like in camp, you can literally be with these people for just a week and you feel like you've known everybody for a long time already. I feel like the lyrics here are kind of self-explanatory, but I thought I would kind of give a little bit of background information to it because I kind of think that's pretty cool. And then the main lyrics for the chorus, home away from home, when I've got no place to go, is I went to camp because I felt like I literally had nowhere else to go. I don't really know what I want to do with my life. I love making music. I get that's pretty obvious, but in terms of like a career, I don't really know what I want to do. What actually are the lyrics to this song? Give me a sec. I don't even know the lyrics. I mean, I do know the lyrics to my song. I just want to make sure that I'm getting it right. Home away from home when I got no place to go. Tell me, do you feel it? Tell me, do you feel it? It just kind of fits in there, but it's more of just like a... It also means... This can mean a lot of stuff. Tell me, do you feel it? For me, kind of meant do you sort of feel how amazing camp is? But it can also mean, do you feel God? The camp that I go to is a Christian camp, so to me it kind of meant like, tell me, do you feel it? Do you feel the faith, the Spirit of God? Do you feel the Spirit of God? Want to stay, but I got to go. Miles away, but I had to grow. Want to stay, but I got to go means, it's kind of obvious. I want to stay at camp, but I got to go home. My visa's ending. And miles away, but I had to grow. My home is miles away from camp, but I feel like I come to camp to grow. Again, kind of self-explanatory. Now these lyrics, T came up with these. Where you go, I will wait for you. Where you sleep, I will dream for you. I don't want to speak on behalf of him, but to me, these lyrics mean that wherever you go in camp, outside of camp, you're always going to have the friends that you make there for you, literally no matter what. Like, wherever you go in the world, these friends are going to be there for you. Camp is sort of like a bonding experience that you just can't even explain. And then where you sleep, I will dream for you. I'm going to do the work for you. Because the love that you kind of give your friends at camp is indescribable to me. And then, where there's love, you will find me there. Find me there, find me there. Again, camp is just filled with love. To me, this lyric specifically means where there's love, in the sense of there's love at camp, and you know that you're going to find me there because camp feels like home. And then, yeah, it just literally repeats the whole song. It's such a simple song, it's so easy. But I'm going to give a little behind the scenes sneak peek here, because I'm not sure what I'm actually going to do with this version of the song. So, the whole song... You know how that goes. But I actually came up with a little bit of a different version of the song. But I don't know if this version is going to get released, but I just think I'll show you because I think it's kind of cool. It doesn't start with any drums this time around, it's just guitars. EQ or anything on here. This is just, I kind of did this and asked T if he wanted this version, or the other version that I showed you. And obviously if you wanted the other version, I wasn't going to mix and master stuff. And then we got the snare that just comes in here. So then there's this version of the song, and I don't really know if I should release this version or if I should just kind of stick to the acoustic side of things, because I asked T, I was like, T, which version do you prefer? And he said the acoustic version is much better because it's kind of more raw and it's what I performed at the banquet. But I really wanted to release a studio version, and then I wanted to take the audio from the live version that people had recorded and also upload that to Spotify. But I'm thinking about maybe just making like a full EP section of just Home Away From Home and having an acoustic version, a live version, and then kind of the version that's got like the kick and stuff in. But I don't know if that's like pushing it too far, because I know people would definitely want the studio version, and I know people will definitely want the live version. Because I put a little poll in the WhatsApp group that we have, and everyone said that they wanted both versions. So I don't know if 3 is too much. 2 is definitely more than enough, but I don't know if 3 is kind of pushing it. So yeah, I guess when this video is released, we'll see how many versions I've published. But at the moment, I'm just waiting for Teppo to get back to me to send me his vocals over, and when he does, I will get back to you on what that sounds like. Okay, first things first, apologies for the outfit and the hair. I've just come back from work. But T has sent over the vocals for Home Away From Home. I'm going to listen to them with my headphones on, and then I'm going to play it to you for you guys. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, that's so fire! Yeah, T! Woo! Okay, so I'm currently editing this video in a hotel room, and I'm just looking at my reaction live with no music and no context. It's kind of cringe, but it's really funny, so I'm gonna leave it in the video because this was my actual raw, authentic reaction. But I'm just like, yeah! Oh, that's so fire! Oh my god, okay. Sorry, I got so excited. Oh, that sounds so good. What the heck? Oh my god, okay, right, I'm so excited to play this. Alright, I don't think that you're ready for this. I need to do a little bit of mixing around with the instruments because they're a little bit loud, but that's okay. Where you go, I will wait for you. Where you sleep, I will dream for you. Where there's love, you will find me there. Find me there, find me there. All night from home. Oh! And I got no place to go. Tell me, do you feel it? I wanna stay, but I got to go. Miles away, but I had to go. All night from home. Where you go, I will wait for you. Where you sleep, I will dream for you. Where there's love, you will find me there. Find me there. Teppo! Find me. I'm feeling so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's only been a week, but I feel like I know you so long. I'm feeling so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's only been a week, but Teppo! I feel like I know you so long. That sounds so good! Tell me, do you feel it? I wanna stay, but I got to go. Miles away, but I had to go. All the way from home. I feel so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's not even a week. Edit the vocals on this part. week, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's only been a week, but I feel like I know it's so long. Oh, that sounds so good. The ending. Are you ready for this? Tell me, do you feel it? Wanna stay, but I got to go. Miles away, but I had to go. Oh, my. Are you ready? Are you ready? Woo! Teppo, you nailed that. Oh, man, that sounds absolutely phenomenal. I'm speechless. I'm away from home when I've got no place to go. Tell me, do you feel it? I wanna stay, but I got to go. Miles away, but I had to grow. Find me, I'm feeling so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's only been a week, but oh my god, what did I just do? What did I just do? I don't know what I just did. Okay. I'm aware of what I did. Oh wait, no, I was not meant to do that. I was meant to do this. Teppo, I want your vocals here, bro. I don't know why you're not. Right, I need to re-record this part, I think. I'm feeling so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's only been a week, but I feel like I know you so long. I'm feeling so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's only been a week, but oh, this sounds so fire, by the way. It's really hard to tell because you can't hear it right now, but this is sounding absolute fire. But I think I'm gonna get rid of my vocals there and move Teppo's up here instead. Could I do this? Just add like a little bit of delay to his vocal. Ooh, that would be smooth. It feels crazy to say this. The only thing that needs to be done is mixing and mastering. And then this song will be complete. That sounds so good. Oh, Teppo's harmonies. But then without all that stuff, this is what it sounds like. So it's really quiet because I've just had to do like some mix and mastering to it. But when I've actually finished it, it'll sound better. Dude, I can't believe that this is the actual song. No, you're keeping me strong. It's only been a week, but I feel like I know you so long. I feel so weak, but you're keeping me strong. You're keeping me strong. It's only been a week, but I feel like I know you so long. Okay, so Teppo's vocals don't need anything done to them. T has done all of his own stuff. I think all I'm gonna do is just add just a little bit of of delay on his vocal here. Delay. We go sample delay. So we put up. No, keeping me strong. It's only been a week, but I feel like I'm so. Hey. This is where things I often find in mixing and mastering, things can get very repetitive when you're just listening to the same thing over and over and over. So I don't really know if I'm going to go over mixer and mastering for you guys because I don't really think that's too interesting. Basically what I'm going to be doing is on the acoustic guitars. Actually, do you know what? Maybe should I do like a little voiceover as I'm like, I'll put this on like a time lapse or something and you guys can, I'll just do a voiceover. That's honestly probably better. I just like screenshot the things that I've done. Okay, so for the first acoustic guitar, I just add some channel EQ to kind of just clean up the frequencies. I would go through and scan, and whatever sounded too high, I would just then drag down the EQ to make it quieter. I then just added some reverb to that guitar. I didn't do too much, and then obviously I panned it to the left there. With the other guitar though, the other acoustic guitar, I added a little bit of echo to it, just to kind of thicken it up a little bit, as well as this is the EQ that I did for this guitar here. I think this was actually was this a preset? No, I think I did this myself, so you can see that dip in the 2500 section. I actually, again, I dipped it to clean it up a little bit, and then I actually increased the higher frequencies just because I thought it made it sound a little bit more clear. Whenever I try and do the EQ on my guitars, I try not to make the EQ sound the same, simply because, I don't know, I feel like it can make your guitars sound too alike, and when I want one in one ear and one in the other ear, I don't want that to be the case. But then I also created a bus and added some acoustic reverb to this acoustic guitar, as well as adding some delay actually to this guitar as well. Again, like I say, I like having a guitar in one ear and a guitar in the other ear to kind of like clean up the sound and to make it really feel like there's a lot going on in your headphones. And then for the clean guitar, for the cleaning guitar, for my electric guitar, this was the amp preset that I used. It's custom, just a small British amp with a Stadium 4x12 head. And for the EQ, I literally just put in the EQ at the top. It's actually a preset that Logic has, and I thought it sounded really nice, so I just kept that. Something I've actually always been scared about doing is using presets. I feel like using presets is like a cheat code. It's not. They're there for a reason. Use them. But then on the electric guitar, I also added a space designer for some reverb, and I think that was it. Now for the drums, what I actually did here is I made the drum kit. So originally the drum kit in Logic, it just comes as one thing, but you can select an option that allows you to extend out your drum kits and to kind of edit each part of the drums separately. So instead of trying to edit every part of your drum kit at once, you can edit it to be just the kick, to be just the snare, to be just the toms, and to be just like the hi-hats and the percussion. So I did that, and then I went in on my EQ, and this is how I EQ'd the snare. You kind of want to get rid of the lower frequencies, and you want to extend some of those higher frequencies to really get like that punchy sound. And then again in the dynamics, this is what I use as my dynamics. I just decreased the threshold a little bit, increased the ratio. There's no makeup gain here. And I add a little bit of distortion to it, again, just to really make the snare have a bit of like a punch. And then go into the kick. Again, you want to get rid of some of the lower frequencies, weirdly enough, when you're doing the kick, because you don't want the kick to sound like too muddy. And then you also want to, sometimes it's nice to increase a little bit of something over here, because it really makes that kick have that punch. And again, the dynamics here, decrease the threshold, increase the ratio. I didn't add any makeup gain, but I did add a bit of distortion. My attack and my release, I just kind of listened to what sounded good and what didn't sound good, and I just messed around there. The goal for this kick, again, was just make it sound a bit more punchy. And then I selected all of these. I created a track stack to my drums, which then added them onto my window here. And then when I create a track stack, I can then edit the drums all at once. So the goal here is, once you've got this track stack, is to put it all together, and then I now want to edit the drums all together. So previously I section out each part of the drum so I can EQ it, compress it, whatever, separately, but now I want to EQ it and compress it together, so by creating a track stack that allows me to do that. Then on the drums, we've got a linear EQ. So the difference between channel EQ and linear EQ is linear EQ keeps the frequencies, it keeps the sounds the same, I think. I think it's just like a cleaner version of a channel EQ, and I'm just increasing some of the highs here. This is just to really make the drums sound out more in the mix. And then the compression I just went by ear. The makeup gain, I actually did change this. I lowered down the makeup gain to not be so high because the drums were too loud in the mix. Decreased the threshold a little bit, increased the ratio, and then again, a lot of this stuff I just kind of go by ear. I feel like compression, you really just have to go by ear as to what sounds good. But that is what I did for the time being on Home Away from Home in terms of all of the cool stuff that we've got going on. Okay, the song is finished. It's crazy. It's done. I'm gonna go over all the stuff that I did for the vocals, because I did a lot of stuff with the vocals. Not necessarily in terms of what I added to it, although it is quite a lot, but more in terms of volume automation and start doing things such as like making a track stack, it's called. So the vocals in the song, T's vocals when he sent them over were quite quiet, and my vocals were a little bit louder in some places and a little bit quieter in some places. So you can see here, I've moved things, panned things in the left and the right ears, and I have also automated a lot of the volumes, so now everything's all the vocals should be at the right levels. Some parts of the song are louder, so therefore the vocals need to be louder there. But I just basically changed all of the levels of the vocals in terms of the volume that it needed to be. And then I just created what's classified as like track stacks to basically, I've got the chorus vocals, then I've got the verse vocals, then I've got the ending vocals, what I classified as, then I've got the bridge vocals, then I've got my own harmony vocals, and then there's T's vocals. And interestingly enough, actually with T's vocals, I looped them up, and I copied his first chorus that he did onto the second chorus, so that he had more of a part in the song than he did, because he only sang the verse in the first chorus, and then did some harmonies. But I wanted him to be there throughout the whole song, because it's my song as well as it is T's. So I decided to duplicate his vocals over, and then, so he's technically in the second chorus as well, and then I added a layer onto his as well, and I added a little bit of delay, so it kind of had more of a fullness kind of sound. Yeah, so that's what I did in terms of layering the vocals. I thought that was really important. Now when it comes to the actual vocals, there's actually not much difference between what I did on each part of the vocal section, because I didn't want to make the vocals sound too drastic from each other. I kind of, depending on if I have backing vocals and things like that, that's when I'll change things up. But this song doesn't have as many vocals as some of my other songs that I've created. So for the vocal chain, most of it is pretty much the same. I've added a noise gate onto each section. Basically what a noise gate does is, when you're talking, there's silence between your words when you sing. So like now, and then now, there was just a pause there. What a noise gate does is it silences that pause between your words. So if there's anything going on in the background, it will cut that out so your vocal sounds a bit cleaner. Then I added this EQ here. Now the vocals in the song are very high, so I wanted to enunciate that highness by adding some more frequencies in like the 2000 area sort of range. So you can see in that area there's a big kind of jump in the EQ there. And then the lower side, I've kind of cut that off because the song isn't sung in a lower pitch. It's a lot of high frequency, so I didn't want the lows to be, enunciated a lot on the song. Then we've got the first compressor here. I'm not gonna lie, when I actually do my vocal trains, I do typically go onto YouTube and look at what other people have done on vocal chains, and I will copy that over onto my own vocals, and I will hear how it sounds and then adjust accordingly. Because when it comes to editing vocals, guitars, I'm pretty good at just doing by ear, but when it comes to my vocals, I'm still not 100% sure exactly sometimes what I'm looking for and the effect that I like myself. So a lot of the time I do just look at what other people have done, take inspiration from them, bring it over to me, and then edit adjustingly for me. So this is pretty heavily compressed. The ratio was like 6.3 I think, which is quite a heavy compression, but I thought it sounded pretty good. It does sound good in the song. And then the same thing in the second compressor here, it's also compressed quite heavily. I think the threshold just kind of brings down the volume a little bit in your vocals. I then added an EQ after this as well. Again, a lot of this stuff that I've done was just inspired by this person that I watched on YouTube. He's called Crablord. I'll leave a link in the description. He does some really amazing vocal presets. Again, it's a high song, so we're going to enunciate these highs again. Now this is called a multipressor. Again, it's sort of enunciating that higher end. You can see over here in the box that says 4. It's higher, that little bar is higher than the ones in 1 and 3. And this here, so I think what this does is, because it's a compressor is there for noise, and it makes things, I don't really know how to explain this, but it's like, you can make your vocals sound more enunciated or less enunciated. So basically, these bands that you see, the 1 and the 3 and the 4, the 1 is all of like your low frequencies, the 3 is moving on to your higher frequencies, more like your mid frequencies, and then the 4 is all of your really, really high frequencies that you hear more in songs. And when you adjust these bands, you can hear the music or your vocals change in their tone. So in number 1, if I was to bring this down, it would sound very muddy, and if I was to bring it up, it would still sound muddy, but a bit less muddy, and make it sound a bit more like airy and ethereal. And then when you move over onto the higher frequency bands, when you move that bar up, it makes it sound even more sort of higher and airy than the previous bands. I don't really know if that makes sense, but yeah. And then when you look further down, so you've got the boxes with the bars, and then when you look further down where it's got 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the negatives next to it, that basically that's something to do with your threshold, and when your frequencies get so high, sometimes they can start to clip, and using this threshold here thing sort of helps you figure out how for it not to clip. It just makes it's really hard to explain because I can hear it when I'm editing things, like when I'm doing my music, when I'm messing around with it, I can hear when it starts to sound where I want it to sound, because sometimes while this bar is in the right zone, your threshold might not be in the right zone, so while the bar might sound how you want it to, the threshold can change whether it sounds muddy or whether it sounds good. I don't really know if that makes sense. It makes sense to me, but that might not make sense in general, but yeah. Then here, we've got a tape delay. I describe delay and reverb as kind of giving your vocals more of an experience, the same as on your guitar. It kind of just gives it like an extra oomph. Like the delay makes it feel like there's more than just one thing going on at once. If you have just like one line of vocals, it's going to sound pretty flat and it's not going to sound like it's going around your head. Whereas if you add delay and when you add reverb, I feel like that's when it starts to feel like a lot of stuff's going on. You can genuinely take just one line of vocals and make it sound really interesting and that there's a lot going on just simply by adding delay and reverb. Then we've got another compressor. Again, this is really heavy, this ratio, but the threshold isn't as heavy. Not sure what this is doing, but it sounded good, so I'm just going to be completely honest here. Now we've got this reverb. This here, so when you are creating your reverb, this is on something called Chromaverb. Logic has a few different versions of reverb that you can use. There's Space Designer, there's Silververb, there's one more, and there's Chromaverb. I personally used to just use Space Designer, but now I genuinely like messing around with the Chromaverb and the Silver one. I think that those two are really good. Now, when you first put this on its setting, it sounds like it's like kind of, the reverb sounds like it's kind of out of control, but by using these little dots you can kind of control it more, so it sounds, instead of it sounding like this, it can sound more like this, and it's more controlled. And then your dry and your wetness is how much of that reverb that you hear. So your dryness for me is how full your vocal is. Like if it's at 100%, it's like your vocal's all there, but if it's kind of at 0%, it sounds a little bit less like your vocals there. And then the wetness is how much reverb is on. So if I was to take this all the way up to 100%, it would be so overpowering that you'd be like, whoa, like there's too much going on here. But the more that you taper it down to where it sounds good, the more of an effect it can have on your song. And then next up, we've got some buses here. We've got an exciter plugin. This here, the exciter, again, it controls the frequencies and what it sounds like. So if I was to have this harmonic section up to like 200%, my vocals would sound in the higher frequency range. It would sound too high and it would be like quite ringing in your ears, but you can control what it sounds like by using that little dial. And then on you've got the exciter, and then on the same bus we've got another Space Designer here, again just more reverb to give more of an effect. And then on the next bus we've just got this channel EQ here, kind of controlling all of those those higher frequencies, just making sure that they don't sound too tinny. I find when you are working a lot with higher vocals, if you're not careful on what you're doing with the EQ, it can sound like way too high, and then it can start to sort of hurt your ears and sound just, I don't know, it just starts to sound not right in my opinion. Oh, I think I was just showing you that the verse vocals here have the exact same vocal preset on it. The only thing that sometimes I would change was on the multipressor was the decibel level. It was changed depending on which section of the song it was in, because some parts of the song I wanted to sound quieter and other parts I wanted to sound louder. On my ending vocals, the reverb here you can see is different. It's actually on the Silververb rather than the other one. A lot of the times when it comes to reverb, I know exactly, I don't necessarily know the preset that I want to use, but I know the sound that I want my my vocals to have. And I just clicked on this preset here and clicked room, and then I kind of mess around with the delay and things like that. And then here on my harmony vocals, this is where it starts to get a little bit different. I had my vocal preset is very different here. There's very minimalistic things on this. We've got a noise gate. I don't really need to explain that, I just explained that to you guys. I've got a compressor here, then I have got more EQ here. Now because these vocals were higher
a lot higher than my other ones. Sometimes your vocals can it can be too much. So I kind of didn't want to enunciate this too much and rather just focus on keeping it at a good level. Then we've got another multi-presser on here. Again, just sort of controlling the muddiness of it because I really wanted to focus on the higher parts of the vocals. I was trying to taper down the lower frequencies. And then this is a bus. This is the reverb that we have on. Now this vocal preset that I used was by that YouTuber Crablord that I was telling you about. This reverb here was pretty crazy. I had to be really careful with how much of this I used because it really was like so big and expansive that when you talked, it felt like there was a lot going on at once. So you can see here at the very side where I've got it on the bus, there's hardly any of that on because it was quite overwhelming. But sometimes your reverb can be very overwhelming, but when it's on a bus allows you to control the levels of your reverb a lot more because of how much volume the bus can add or how much you can take away, which is great. And then I added this other reverb as well because the other one kind of felt like that reverb was far away, whereas this reverb felt like it was right in your ears. I don't really know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's kind of what I did there. And then with Teppo's vocal, I didn't really need to do much for T. I could already hear that he had done his own stuff, which was amazing. Thank you. It meant, I could just stick his vocals in and kind of adjust accordingly. But I did actually add a little bit of reverb onto his just to kind of fit in with my vocals because obviously he edited his vocals his way and I edited mine my way. So I kind of wanted to have his flavour and then a little bit of my flavour thrown in as well. And that was everything that I did for the song. And then when we move over to the kick, the clap, the snare, the hi-hats and the cymbals, a lot of stuff was me just messing on with the channel EQ. I'm not really going to go too much into detail on this. A lot of it is honestly, it's just EQ. And when I EQ my kick, my clap, my snare, my hi-hats and my cymbals, the kick, I want to focus more on the lower frequencies because it's a lower pitch. Whereas your clap, your snares and your hi-hats and your cymbals, you want to focus on the higher frequencies because, well, they're high-pitched, if that kind of makes sense. But my snares and my claps, when I say clap, I literally just mean it's someone just going like that. I like to add just a very slight bit of reverb on that because I think sometimes a clap can sound quite flat. But when you have some reverb on it and it sounds a bit more realistic, in my opinion, I think it sounds better. But then on the kick, I added something, it's this plugin, it just kind of gives more of a punch to the kick rather than it just sounding quite flat. But then if we go over to the actual mixing and mastering section of things, again, this is from a YouTuber that I have watched. I've watched his tutorial and I thought that his mixing and mastering process was amazing. So I kind of, like I said, was inspired by him and put that stuff into my own music, if that makes sense. The first thing that we've got here is a multimeter. This, honestly, I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not 100% sure what it's about. It just helps control the volume of stuff. We've got -9 and then -10 on the... It's something to do with volume. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what I'm doing at that part, but I think honesty's better. I don't really know what I'm doing, it just works. I just take it from a YouTube video. I know I should learn, but it sounds good. Next, we've got a linear EQ. I talked about this when I was on about the drums. Then we've got a graphic EQ here. This EQ is to control our higher frequencies. So you tune it up by 4 notches and you change the output drive to about 3 and change it to smooth. But then the main focus here is on the 10.1K to the 20K range. I feel like this is where your song can either sound really good or it can start to sound messy. When you're working with higher frequencies, you have to be really careful with how high you go because, like I say, it can sound a bit tinny. Now, when I'm making my songs, I always mess around and listen to different parts of the song as to what it sounds like because while one part might sound really good where I've got the notch, another part might not sound good, and that was the case in this song. I thought that it would sound really good a little bit higher, the 20.2K region, but then it got to another part of the song and it didn't sound very good, so I had to kind of dial that back a little bit. And then in the 10.1K region, it's very slight changes, but it is stuff that you can hear. Again, when I'm unsure of what something does, I like to sort of mess around with it myself and see what it does. Like when it comes to the compressor, while I'm just kind of copying some settings, I do kind of mess around and I can hear the differences. I'm not going to lie, the only thing that this does not apply for is that multimeter. I have zero idea what that does, but whatever it does, it works. So I should probably mess around with that myself. So with the linear EQ, I like to mess around with the frequencies myself. I like to see, oh, that sounds a little bit too high, or oh, actually that sounds pretty good. We've got another multipressor here. Again, this multipressor, we're mainly focusing on that band number 4. You can see that 1, 2, and 3 are all bypassed, which means that I'm not using them. Number 4, what I'm actually doing here is I'm making sure that the higher frequencies, they're not too high and they're not tinny. So we're more focused on the compressor threshold here and making sure that that sounds good. Not sure if I took a picture of that, so I'm going to do that again. Then we've got an exciter. Again, this exciter is focusing on those higher frequencies, just kind of cleaning up the sounds. I always find mixing and mastering is what I classify as a process of sort of cleaning up everything at once. So like, you can fine tune the details on each individual instrument, and then mix and mastering is the whole song in one to kind of make it all sound the same. If we're looking at that in like video editing terms, it's kind of like adding color grading onto the whole of your video. I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense to me, but it's to make the whole video the same, whereas mixing and mastering is to make the whole song the same. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but it does in my head. Next, we've got a spreader. This basically is to make the song. I love using this plugin because the experience that you get when you're listening with this plugin, and it's like all the way up, is crazy. Basically, the spreader makes sure that the sound is like surrounding your whole head. I love working with this. When it's like 100%, it's crazy. But you don't want to be like too crazy with it, otherwise it can get too much. So I like to just have it, you know, at a lower percentage, and then I'm sort of working on the upper frequencies as well. Then we've got HAFH here. This here is interesting because this is mainly like the final mastering sort of clipping thing that I use. We've got a bass enhancer. Oof, when this is turned up really high, your bass sounds so good in it. The distortion is just to add a little bit of loudness to it, and then your mastering section over here, again, it's just for sound, basically. The adaptive limiter, this is kind of like the final thing that you use to make sure that the volume of your song is good. I'm not 100% sure what it does, but I know that it's to do with volume levels of your song. And this section here that says look ahead, it gives you an ideal optimal look ahead of what your song should be. And if your song clips, it will tell you, and you can change the look ahead to the clipping of your song. If you don't know what clipping is, it's when the volume goes too high. And then, so like say for example, the maximum volume that you can hear is 40 decibels. Your song could clip over to like 60. I'm just using this as an example. And if it's clipped over 60, you're not going to hear anything above 40, so it's kind of pointless to be in the song. Whereas the optimal look ahead, I think it kind of brings it down so you can hear everything still. That's what I think that it does. I'm pretty sure that is what it does. But yeah, that's Home Away from Home. It's completed. I don't even know what to think. And it sounds phenomenal too. Like, it sounds really, really good. I think out of all of the versions that I have done, the acoustic version is my favourite. Should I give it a listen? You're gonna hear it anyways. Should I give it? I think that we should give it a listen. I think that we should. Because I personally think that it sounds bloody amazing. Then that when T's part, and then at the end, it all just sounds so good together. Where you go, I will wait for you. Where you sleep, I will dream for you. Where it's light, you will find me there. Find me there, find me there. All away from home, when I've got no place to go. Tell me, do you feel it? I wanna stay, but I got to go. Miles away, but I had to go. All the way from home. My part. Where you go, I will wait for you. Where you sleep, I will dream for you. Where there's light. Oh, T's harmony. Find me there, find me there. Sounds so good. I feel so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's not even a week, but I feel like I know you so long. I feel so weak, but I know you're keeping me strong. It's not even a week, but I feel like I know you so long. along. 3, 2, 1. I'm away from home when I've got no place to go. Tell me, do you feel it? I wanna stay, but I got to go. Miles away, but I have to go. Right, this second bridge is my favourite. Just because of T. That's the reason why. It's only been a week, but I feel like I know you so long. Are you ready? I feel so weak, but I keeping me strong, keeping me strong. I feel like I know you so long. I'm away from home when I've got no place to go. Tell me, do you feel it? I wanna stay, but I got to go. Miles away. Are you ready for T's version? Oh, you ready? Fire! Fuego! Oh, I'm so happy with this. I've sent it over to T. T has sent me over his artwork. I created my own artwork, but I like his, so I'm gonna use his. And then it's gonna get released. I have got a music video to edit. I know exactly what I'm doing for it, which is phenomenal. Very happy that I know what I'm doing. I'm just really happy with the song. Like, I really, really am so happy with the song. I think it sounds amazing. It's everything and more that I wanted it to be. I was kind of worried as to how I would go from making a live version to making it onto my computer. Obviously, I knew the chords, but it was more just kind of like the drums that I was worried about because Hudson did such a good job in the live version. I was kind of like, oh my god, I have got to add drums to this song now. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't know the tempo. The actual version that I'm posting on Spotify is faster than the live version. That's totally fine. It doesn't really matter. I like how fast it is, actually. But yeah, that is the behind the scenes of Home Away From Home. I hope that you enjoyed, because I'm going to plan on making more of these. I want to maybe do one for every song, but I think that that's quite a lot. So you'll probably just see these every now and then, sporadically posted, depending on the song. But because also some songs that are probably going to be on my album are songs that I've already made. And I sometimes find talking about the creative process to something that was in the past is very hard, because you're not always in the same mindset as you were at that point in your life, if that makes sense. So some of the songs are not going to have the behind the scenes of. Some will, some won't. But yeah, just get ready for a new one. And thank you for watching. It's been crazy. I can't believe that this song's going to be out. Woo!